What's on my iPhone? Specifically, my iPhone 13 mini. Firstly, thanks to Mike_Sausage who suggested or requested this video. It's really great to get requests from the community, and it really helps with creating content that you all want to see. So please do keep commenting with suggestions or anything else. Now, I read every single comment that is posted on my videos, and I'm really grateful to all of you that are watching and commenting, so a massive thank you from me. As an aside, there are thousands, literally thousands of you watching that are not subscribed. So if you are enjoying watching these videos, then please do consider subscribing. Right, enough of that. On to the main event. What's on my iPhone? Now, I'm not sure if this is going to be interesting or boring, so I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I have two main pages on my iPhone and the app library, or as I like to call it, the wasteland. So let's get into it with the first page, which is basically a page full of widgets. I've tried to create a page of widgets, just purely widgets, so that I can glance at this one page and get a bird's eye view of all the important things that are going on through the day. I've got the stock weather widget. Now, Apple's weather app has come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. I think a couple of years ago, they bought an app called Dark Sky, which I used quite a lot, and they seem to have integrated a lot of the features into the stock Apple weather app. Living in the UK, you need to keep an eye on the weather. I guess you need to keep an eye on the weather everywhere, right? But get a great map view, which when you click into, you can see what the weather's going to be like over the next 12 hours, which is quite handy if you're going to be out for the whole day. The next widget is an app called Zero. So I'm overweight. As I creep towards 40, by the way, it still feels really weird thinking that I'm going to be turning 40. When I was a kid and my parents were 40, I used to think that was really old. Well, I'm about to turn 40 this year and I don't feel very old. So now it's my turn. Anyway, I digress. I'm overweight, I'm borderline hypertensive, and I've got a family history of diabetes. So as part of my midlife crisis, I've kind of decided that I need to get back down to a sensible weight. When I was 30, I weighed 54 kilograms, which is I think 119 pounds. Currently, I weigh 73.9 kilograms, or 163 pounds. So I've basically added 20 kilograms or 44 pounds of fat over the last 10 years. I've targeted, by the time I hit my 40th birthday in August, to get down to 60 kilograms or 132 pounds. That's probably unrealistic, but if I get anywhere close, I'll be happy. So Zero is an intermittent fasting app, and I basically use it as a counter to basically time my fast and basically let me know when I can eat again. I'm following a 16-8 plan, which means you fast for 16 hours and then you eat within an 8-hour window. So I'm always checking that little widget to see when it's getting close to 16 hours so that I can basically go and eat, because I love eating. Intermittent fasting basically allows you to eat reasonably what you want to for those 8 hours, but then give yourself a break. So hopefully I should lose some weight. We'll see if it happens. Because I love food so much, it's really easy for me to cave and not get through to the 16 hours. So having that widget on the home screen, front and center, well, off to the top right corner, basically allows me to keep myself focused on reaching that 16 hours. There's also a lot more to this app. There's things to read about weight loss and how to go about intermittent fasting, which is great resource. It also has the facility to subscribe. I'm currently not subscribed. I'm trying it out, seeing how it is. But you do have the option to subscribe if you want to. The next widget is Google Calendar. In my day job, the company I work for as a commercial finance manager, we use Google Apps. I have a Gmail account for my email. I have a Gmail account for this YouTube channel. So having the Google Calendar app was just a natural thing to do. I do still have all the accounts signed in to the stock Apple Calendar app on the phone, just so that the calendar entries pass through into my Apple Watch, because there's currently no Google Calendar app for the Apple Watch, which is quite annoying. Google Calendar app does some really specific things like booking meeting rooms at the office, which the stock Apple Calendar app just really can't do. So I've migrated to the Google Calendar app rather than using the standard Apple one. The next two widgets are both Apple reminders, and it might look a bit weird to have two widgets for the same app right next to each other. The one on the left is basically a today view, where it has something that I need to do today. And the one on the right is where I accumulate tasks that I think of as I'm going throughout the day. I say throughout the day, but I've got 34 here. There's more that needs processing. I don't really use the Apple Reminders app as my main to-do app. I actually use a where is it? I actually use a bullet journal, a manual journal, which basically keeps all my tasks and everything in one place. But I do use the Apple Reminders app for date-specific things in the future or recurring things like water my plants every third Tuesday. That'll just pop up on today, on the day that it needs to be done. And it doesn't really make sense to have that in the journal. But what I do is when I'm out and about, when I don't have the journal with me, or I'll log things in the inbox, and then I'll basically clear that inbox down to 0 and then put them into my journal either at the end of the day, every couple of days, something like that. I also use the Reminders app for things like shopping lists. The Apple Watch has the Reminders app as well, so when you're out and about in the going shopping for groceries, things like that, it's really easy to just use the watch. I know this isn't my Apple Watch. I'm not wearing it right now. It's charging. I've shared the shopping list with my wife, so it's really easy for us to, as we find things that we need to buy, just shout to the HomePods in the house, hey, bleep, add X, Y, and Z to my shopping list, or add X, Y, and Z to my Costco list. And they just show up there, so when either of us is out shopping, we've got everything on the list that we need to get. Then we get into the first page of apps. First thing you might notice here, there's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, there's no TikTok, there's no LinkedIn, there's no Twitter, etc., social media apps on my main homepage here. I intentionally don't put these apps where they're really easy to access, because going into them is a great massive time suck, and I can end up wasting way too much time going into those apps if I don't put them in the wasteland. As they say, out of sight, out of mind. So I put these apps into the app library rather than on the main home screen or into the wasteland. So I really need to think and want to go onto these apps to actually go and use them. And I find that I hardly use any of these apps anymore. I might once a week go into the Facebook app to check something, or I might go into LinkedIn or something like that, but it's very, very rarely. Whereas when they were on the home screen, I'd be daily going into them. You'd lose 15 minutes, 3, 4, 5 times a day, where I could be doing something much more productive. So, first app is the clock app, which I use as an alarm clock and also to stay abreast of what time it is in all the different locations that I deal with in my day job. There's also obviously stopwatch and timer, which get used fairly regularly. Next up is the Notes app. Now, I've dabbled with using things like Notion and Google Docs before, but I just keep coming back to the Apple Notes app because it's just really simple to use. It's really basic, and actually that's a really good thing. The simplicity is part of how good the app is. I use the Notes app to take notes alongside my bullet journal, and especially when I don't have my bullet journal with me, because this thing is quite big and I don't carry it around everywhere. But it also is used for things that don't make sense going into the bullet journal, like links to a website or a picture of something, or even the YouTube, or even my YouTube scripts or my video pipelines. Everything that I do for this channel also lives in the Apple Notes app, and it makes sense for it to be in the Notes app rather than in my bullet journal, because it's free and easy to me to because it's free and easy for me to edit. Again, it syncs to all my devices. There's very little learning curve to it. It's just a really low barrier to entry and really easy app to use. Reminders is next, which I've kind of already touched on. It probably doesn't really need to be here anymore because I've got 2 widgets on the other page, so let's just get rid of that from here now. Photos I use for all my personal photography. I have 2 terabytes of iCloud storage, so my 55,000 odd pictures and my 2,700 odd videos, personal videos, they all live in the cloud and are backed up here and easily accessible anytime I want to. So I just find it's a great app. And I've got pictures in here going all the way back to 1947 apparently for pictures that I've scanned in. I find the editing features are more than enough for my needs. And again, because it syncs across to all my Apple devices, I can create playlists on here, and or albums on here, and they get synced to my TV and become slideshows, which is great. App Store I'll kind of skip over because we all know what that is. Next up is Google Maps. Now, for me, this app is still the best navigation and mapping app that's available on the iPhone. I've tried using Apple Maps many times, but there are still occasions where Apple Maps just gets it spectacularly wrong and sends you to completely the wrong place. And there's also things that just don't seem to exist on Apple Maps that are on Google Maps, like that random coffee shop that you found that Google knows about, Apple doesn't. And there's also, Apple Maps doesn't have any offline feature, so if I'm abroad in a country where I don't really fancy paying for a data connection, I can download the local map on Google Maps and use it to get around. I can't do that with Apple Maps. So Google Maps for me is still way better than Apple Maps. I like the aesthetics of the Apple Maps, and it looks really good and integrates nicely in my car, but Google Maps just far and away works better, and it never really sends me to the wrong place, which unfortunately Apple Maps has done on too many occasions. Next up is Skillshare. So on my way to creating this YouTube channel, creating these videos, I kind of had to start from scratch. I needed to learn how to edit. I needed to learn how to use Final Cut Pro, how to use a camera better, how to talk in front of cameras, that kind of thing. And Skillshare has been my source for all of this. It's been a great resource. There's thousands of videos there. There's lots of things I've got saved to watch later, random things which you may not have thought of, all the way through to using productivity apps, that kind of thing. I keep it on my home screen mainly because when I'm in the toilet, it prevents me from going into the social apps. Instead, I learn something, which, even if it's 5 minutes, I've learned something, which is much better than mindlessly scrolling through TikToks. Next up is the Reddit app, which I use to browse Reddit. That's about it. Not really much else to say on that. Feedly is an app that I use to aggregate all my news sources, all my websites that I generally like to keep an eye on. You add those feeds into the app and it basically gives you a nice scrollable list of news as it breaks from these websites. You can go into it, read what you want to, scroll through, and it marks everything as read. YouTube is the YouTube app. I think all of you know what the YouTube app is because you're probably using it to watch me right now. YouTube Studio is the next one, and this has become a bit of an addiction. It's where all the analytics for these videos, all the videos that I've created reside. It's also where all the wonderful comments that you all are posting are read and replied to. As I mentioned before, I read every comment and try to respond to everything where I can. If you guys are taking the time to watch and comment, the least I can do is reply and try to respond as often as possible. It's also where I check on the number of subscribers that I have. So it would be great while you're watching this video if you could hit that subscribe button in whichever corner it is. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the time I hit 40 in August. So it would be a great early birthday present from you to me if you hit that subscribe button. And also, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the like button on your way as well. On to the Sonos app. Another addiction of mine is music, and having music all around the house and speakers all around the house is amazing. Basically, it means I can listen everywhere and anywhere in the house and have the same music playing everywhere if I want to. I think I'm up to 14 speakers now, from the Arc in the living room to the Sonos 5 in the kitchen to the Sonos Beam that I've got in the bedroom to the Symphonisk lamps, the IKEA Symphonisk lamps and Symphonisk picture frames that we use for surround sound in the bedroom and the living room. It's an amazing system, and the app is especially amazing because it consolidates all of the music sources that you have into one place. There are so many music providers, audiobooks, podcasts, music that you can add into the app, and it all just sits in one place, which just makes it really convenient to use. I have several HomePod minis also distributed around the house, which we use really just to talk to Siri. But for music, the Sonos app and the Sonos ecosystem for me is leaps and bounds ahead of anything from an ease of use perspective and just music availability perspective. Next up is Apple Music, which I use to listen to music in the car and out and about. And then the next one is the Audible app, which I use to listen to books while I'm taking a walk or sometimes when I'm driving. I find it a great way to squeeze in some reading time when you actually can't read. Alongside that, I have the Kindle app, which is great because it syncs progress between the Audible book and the Kindle book. So I can be listening 1 minute in the car, go into the house, pick up on the Kindle app exactly where I left off in the car, which is frankly amazing. I don't tend to read on my phone that often. Usually I'll read on my Kindle or sometimes on my iPad, but I keep it front and center on my phone's homepage simply because, again, like the Skillshare app, it stops me from wasting time in other apps. Rather than going into Instagram or onto TikTok or something like that, I can instead just go straight into the Kindle app and continue reading a book, which is, I think, far better. I've got some 300 books that are unread at the moment in my library, most of them free, so that's going to keep me going for quite a long time. Tado is the smart heating system that I have installed in the house. It allows me to adjust the heating in the main rooms of the house individually so that we can save energy and, not heat rooms that aren't occupied. Utilities, gas, electricity has become really expensive recently, so having the Tado app helps us minimize these costs by, only heating. I'm the only one at home right now, so I only need to be in one room, only need to heat one room. rather than heating the whole house, which can get quite expensive. Next up is the Eufy security app, which I use to keep an eye on the security cameras that I've got dotted around the house, and also the baby monitor that we use it for. Home Assistant is the backbone of my smart home and where all the automations in the house run. I'm currently in the process of building a new dashboard to control the house. It takes some time, and it's taking a while to do, but hopefully, it's a one-time thing to get it set up. But the Home app is actually where we control the smart home rather than in the Home Assistant app. I share the home with my wife, obviously, so I've shared the house with her in the Home app, and basically I pass all the devices that may need manual control from Home Assistant into the Home app, and we can control them via the Home app. It's also where I can control the house from outside the house, because Home Assistant runs entirely locally, so it's not actually connected to the internet at all. Home connects to Home Assistant and allows external access in a nice and secure manner. Apple Fitness is where I log all my workouts. It's also where I use Apple Fitness Plus as part of my Apple One subscription to do some guided workouts every now and again, usually once or twice a week. I mentioned previously that I use an Oura Ring to track sleep and recovery. I found the data that this gives back is more in line with how I feel than what my Apple Watch tends to do, so I trust this a lot more as a sleep and recovery advisor than the data that's coming from my Apple Watch. My sleep has been terrible for many years, ever since I got married, actually. Less said about that the better. But I can tag in the Aura app things that have happened throughout the day, and I'm slowly hacking my way to getting better sleep, which is really important because sleep is really important. Eufy Life is the smart scale app, which I use to log my weight, which also syncs across to the Apple Health app, which then syncs to the Aura app, so it's quite useful there. I'm trying to lose weight, as I've mentioned earlier, so having that Eufy Life app front and center on the homepage basically means that I will log my weight, which also means I will keep true to my goals and not go and eat that Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's that I would really like to be eating, but I know I shouldn't if I want to hit my weight goals. So must not eat bad food. The last app is the Settings app, which is the Settings app. So I'm sure you all know what's in there. And then swiping over, you get to the Wasteland. Now, for me, I hardly go into this section because it's only when I really need to use something that's here. So, there'll be like the parking app or Instagram, Twitter, those kind of things. For me, a lot of the time, if it's out of sight, it is literally out of mind. So this is where I keep apps that I don't want to use very often, or apps that I just don't need to use very often. So the majority of things live in here. And that's it. That's what's on my iPhone. Drop a note in the comments. Let me know what your favorite apps are. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have a nice day.